Welcome to the Rumor Show. I'm Julio Flores, and you can get a call in today at 1-800-1-RUMOR. Rumor spelled R-U-M-O-R, and we've got some great stories to talk about today. Dwight Howard finally decides he's going to go to the Lakers. We weren't believing it, but now we can officially believe it. Chad Johnson arrested for domestic violence. What happened? Find about that coming up here in the show. And Team USA beats Spain 107-100 in the Olympics and wins gold 107-100. It doesn't sound like that great of a win. My producer, Rudy Campos, is with me. Hello, Rudy. How are you doing today?
Julio, how's it going?
I'm doing wonderful. And, you know, I'm not a big fan of the Olympics, but there's some really cool stories that we saw out of this, and we'll talk about that later coming up in the show. Team USA, the best players from the NBA against some lesser players from other countries. That's what I think of it. Now, basically, you've got the Gasol brothers on Spain. And pretty much everyone else is just from their team, their national team that plays in the European League. But these guys play with some heart. Now, Pau Gasol, awesome player. Mark, he's a good player. He's not great, but he's good.
I tell you, he's much tougher than his brother Pau.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, I know so. That guy plays much tougher than his brother. Guaranteed, anybody will tell you in the league.
All right, whatever you want to think.
It's not what I think, it's what they tell me.
And Kevin Durant, of course, scoring the most points of any player in the USA Olympics. But when it comes down to it, and here's the problem, and I'm going to tie this in with the Dwight Howard story, is that when you have a lot of players of high caliber, such as the Miami Heat, that first year, everyone thought, shoo-in for the NBA Finals. Well, they lost. And granted, the second year they won, but there was a moment when we thought they weren't going to win because you have so many A-list people involved on that team. You think to yourself, how are they going to get along? I want the ball. I want the fame. And I don't know why the reality is there's so much ego in the NBA. Because the reality, it's still a team. It's a team of 12 players. They got 5 starters. Are you telling me they don't practice together? They don't hang out together? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But you think after a few years, you'd get along. But we go back to like the days of Shaq and Kobe on the Lakers. They had so much trouble getting along where eventually someone had to leave. And at that time, it was Shaq. And then you have a team like, and I know they don't have a long time to play, but these USA basketball teams should blow out everybody, including somebody like Spain. They shouldn't just be able to kind of get by. And some of these other teams are like, when Ohio State plays some little rinky-dink school. My intern here, who's a big Ohio State fan, name me one of the teams that Ohio State plays that's kind of a rinky-dink school in their season. Youngstown, I think. Something like that.
Youngstown. Any one AA school they'll play.
Yeah. It's kind of cheesy. That's kind of like how USA basketball should ride over some of these teams. But it's not. And granted, people say, oh, well, they don't get enough time to practice and be able to hang out together and be able to really know each other's system because they're always the one who's basically getting the ball. And this is one thing that Dwight said that Kobe had said to him in the past, like, hey, come and be in the Lakers. You can be my
third option.
Yeah, my alley-oop guy, my defender. And so Dwight was never that excited about coming to the Lakers. Now, supposedly, they had a chance to talk, hash it out. That won't be the thing. The public relations comment that Kobe's saying is that, hey, I'm going to be retiring in 3 or 4 years. Here's the guy that can take over this team and take them to that next, basically, here's the reins, here's the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, and you'll be able to take over Dwight.
Here's the problem. You have guys, and I understand what you said. It's still a team sport. But of all these guys on Team USA, how many of them are actual team players? Carmelo Anthony's not a team player. We already found that out. when he tried to throw Jeremy Lin under the bus. LeBron is not a team player. Kobe for damn sure is not a team player. So how many of these guys that you're relying on really actually team players? I mean, Dwayne Wade is a team player, but he's not playing. I mean, how many of these guys are actually the man on the teams that they are at right now? I mean, other than Dwight Howard and Dwayne Wade, Kevin Durant's the man on his team. All these guys are addicted to the spotlight. They are all go-to guys on their team. So when it comes to something like USA basketball, none of them are going to know what to do because they're all go-to guys. They all become black holes when they're past the ball. They all decide they're going to shoot. That's why they only win by 7 points. And this goes back to when Kobe was talking about how this team would destroy the Dream Team. Do you honestly think that Michael Jordan on that team would only beat Spain by 7 points?
No.
By 7 points.
That's ridiculous.
They would have had a lead by 7 points within the first 2 minutes. And understand this. Team USA was up 35-0 at the beginning of this game. 35-0. And you only win by 7 points? I don't think Kobe knew what he was talking about when he opened his mouth, which he sometimes does. But that just goes to prove that this team could not ever, ever, ever touch the Dream Team. In no way, shape, or form.
Well, again, when you put the Gasol brothers together, you don't think of them as major NBA talent compared to what we've just went through the list of what Team USA has to offer. And obviously, when you're always wanting to have the spotlight, you're not going to go ahead and be a team. And that was the problem that happened in the first year for the Miami Heat. Just too many egos. And then, remember, after the first year, they all blamed each other. Well, it's, so-and-so's not working with me. Well, he's not working with me. And this leads us to the situation now for the Lakers. Of course, the Dwight Howard situation finally came through 4 teams, 11 players, 5 draft picks, and countless rounds of conversation. We know Dwight wanted to go to the Brooklyn Nets, which I think is a really cool name because if you're going to, I have friends from New York, and living in a borough is a big deal. Those aren't even real cities, even though Brooklyn is a real city. But just be called the Bronx or Harlem and that kind of stuff. There's some intensity from individuals I know that have grown up in New York about their neighborhood. So I think this is such a cool thing for them to call it that. But obviously that trade didn't work out. We've heard so many rumors. Every day there was something new about Dwight Howard. I was getting to the point where I was like, it's like a soap opera. I don't even can't talk Spanish well, but I hear about women that are into novellas, soap operas on Telemundo, and they're hardcore into it. And this was a sports soap opera. Where is Dwight Howard going to now? Every day was a different report. And then all of a sudden the story was coming up that the Lakers, and the Lakers were bending over backwards, basically. Whatever you need, whatever you want. Bynum Gasol? Sure. You need a draft pick? Yeah. You see all we did to get Nash, man. We gave away the store. Yeah. Anything you need. And so as time went on, we basically found out that with Dwight, he had run out of options. And of course, the point that he wanted to win a championship. And that was his claim. Orlando never gave him the people to surround him with enough people to make a championship, and that they made a lot of mistakes. And I feel bad for the people in Orlando because no matter what you say about Orlando, all the things that are there, Disney World, etc., it's still considered a secondary market compared to places like Miami, Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, etc. So every person who plays basketball there is always going to think, hey, there's going to be a better situation. I'm going to find it. And so Dwight finally opted to go with the Lakers. Of course, a lot of other people had to get involved. And the things that everyone else got wasn't really that much compared to what the Lakers got. I mean, they still got Chris Duhon, too, which I thought was kind of cool. I like Chris.
The Lakers steal yet another big man from Orlando. They did it with Shaq. They're doing it with Dwight Howard. And give it up to Mitch Kupchak. You have to remember, this is the guy that Kobe said was an idiot. He said he didn't know how to run a team. Well, look at you now. He got you Paul Gasol. That won you 2 championships. He got you Dwight Howard for Andrew Bynum. Now, Andrew Bynum may be the second best big man in all of the NBA. However, you now got the number 1 big man in all of the NBA, and he is leaps and bounds better than Andrew Bynum. Andrew Bynum may be a raw talent and may be good, but at least you know Dwight Howard shows up every night. Andrew Bynum, he shows up 3 nights out of the 4, 3 nights out of the 5, but he never gave his all every game. At least with Dwight Howard, you know you're getting that. As for Dwight Howard only wanting a championship, I claim shenanigans on that. He doesn't want a championship. He only ran out of options. He wanted to go to Brooklyn. Do you think Brooklyn is anywhere close to winning a championship? Is Brooklyn anywhere close? At least anywhere closer than the Lakers? Come on, you can't tell me you were in it for championships and then you want to force your way to Brooklyn. You ended up with the Lakers because your options dwindled. Your market shrank, and instead of being the big fish in a small pond, you decided you want to be second fiddle in the second biggest market in all of the NBA. Last time I talked about this, I said he was stupid. He said he didn't want to come to the Lakers because he was afraid he was going to be second fiddle to Kobe Bryant. Now look, he comes, he's going to be second fiddle, but at least he's thinking about it the way I thought he should have thought about it. Instead of thinking that he's going to be second fiddle, he should realize he only has to play wingman for at least 3 years, maybe 5 at the most. And then he becomes the man on the second most storied franchise in all of the NBA. Dwight Howard is finally thinking with his head. He's finally thinking like any sane person would. At least I thought he would have. I thought he would have thought about this a long time ago. But instead of wanting to be the man, at least right now, he's willing to play wingman only to win championships and become the man 5 years down the road. It's about time you smarten up, Dwight. I am very proud of you. Now you get a silver star and a hero cookie.
Well, here's the situation, too, is remember, rumors we were hearing was that Dwight would sign an extension. Well, technically, you can't talk about that, as his agent pointed out, and so took that off the board. Now, the reality is Dwight can still go ahead and sign with someone else as a free agent. There's no guarantee he's going to stay with the Lakers. So this would have to happen this season. And is there a good chance that the Lakers could win the NBA Finals? Of course, there's a good chance of it. But yet, you still face the Heat, who now have gone ahead and found a way to actually be a team. And would the Lakers be able to pull that off the first season together? Well, in the past, as we see with Kobe, for instance, who obviously is still there, that did not happen. It took time for the Lakers to really technically be a team, but then technically they weren't a team because even though they won the NBA Finals, they still admitted in the offseason that they were not getting along as a team. Now, the Orlando Sentinel has really been ripping on Dwight Howard, and rightly so, because you would think that the people that are in Orlando certainly feel jilted. I mean, this is like a girlfriend who lives in your house but isn't really with you, and you don't have any relations with her, but she stays there, she doesn't work, and she lives off you, and she leaves her, is always threatening to leave, but yet you're not really together.
You know what? They have every right to be mad because, to be honest with you, Dwight Howard comes off as being very fake. Now, let's think about this whole situation here. Last year, he wanted to be traded. Then he didn't want to be traded. Then he wanted to re-up with the team. Now he wants to be traded. Make up your damn mind. That's my problem. Make up your mind. Do you want to be there? Do you not want to be there? If it's about championships, you should have left last year because you knew damn well that Orlando was not going to have enough pieces to put around him for a championship this year. So, I mean, what does he want? Does he want money? Does he want championships? He has to figure that out. And knowing him, I know he hasn't signed an extension yet, but you better guarantee Mitch Kupchak is not making that move without getting a guarantee from him that he's not signing an extension. Because, once again, it's going to show. Does he want the championship or does he want the money? If he's smart, he would maybe take a little bit less to win more championships. You're not going to take much less, but you are going to take less. And then you'll have your championships, you'll have your money, and you can rebuild that image that took such a beating because you opened your mouth and didn't think. Win-win to me, in my eyes, right?
It's a good point you made earlier regarding the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, he made such a big deal that he needed to go there. There was not going to be any championship happening there. The Orlando Sentinel basically ripped on him this weekend, saying that he's basically be playing the fourth man. And this is what they were pointing out. Obviously, you got Kobe. Then you got Steve Nash, where in the end of the game, Nash is so concentrated. And Nash is the kind of guy where he's going to hit threes. And he's just perfect. I mean, they just get the ball in their part of the court, and he's boom, it's in there. So then all of a sudden, Dwight's is going to be left out because just trying to hit threes. And then you got Gasol, which the Orlando Sentinel is saying has the offensive versatility that Dwight lacks. So, in a sense, you have a guy who can be number one, who is now going to be number 4 for about 3-4 years, according to what Kobe says. But, the reality is everyone's going to, lowball that figure. I think Kobe's going to keep playing until he can't walk anymore, He's going to keep going.
You know what? The people in the Orlando Sentinel, that's just piss and vinegar coming out of them. They're just mad because he didn't stay. Technically, he may be playing fourth fiddle, but Orlando needs to realize that first fiddle is going to be Kobe, second fiddle is going to be Kobe, and third fiddle is going to be Kobe. There is nobody who's going to touch the ball other than Kobe Bryant in the last 5 minutes of any game, unless it's a blowout. Then if it's a blowout, it doesn't matter who's first, second, or third fiddle because the starters should be sitting on the bench. Paul Gasol is more... his offensive game is much more developed than Dwight Howard. Fantastic. But he's too soft. He gets beat up, and then he quits. Steve Nash is not an offensive guy. I know people like to think he is, but his best trait is to penetrate and dish. Is that going to get you wins? Yeah. But he's not going to be the one counted on to score the final offense. Dwight Howard cannot be the number one guy in the last 5 minutes because the guy doesn't hit free throws. And he knows the moment the ball goes into him, it's going to become a hack a Dwight or hack a Shaq or whatever the hell you want to call it. As soon as he touches the ball, they're going to foul him and make him win it from the free throw line. So if he wants to be the number one guy, he better learn how to shoot free throws. Because once Kobe leaves and he has to be the number one guy, we all know they're going to foul him. Plain and simple.
The thing about when Nash came over, I remember this quote being said in the press where Kobe called Nash to tell him that to make sure that he knew they were going to be complementary leaders, just so Nash would know that it wasn't going to be just me. And I know Kobe had to say something like this because, for one, Nash is older. Nash has more experience in the NBA. And even though Kobe has that experience, he would have to say something like that. But we've never heard anyone say that Kobe called Dwight and they talked about this, that will be complementary leaders. So Dwight will have to wait around for a while. And basically, when you tell a team you want to leave, you're just not welcome anymore. That's the way it was in Orlando. It's like, well, you better hurry up and go because we're going to run you out here with pitchforks soon, get you out of town. And that's the way I felt. I remember a lot of people talking about the year when Kobe was frustrated, like, well, I'm just going to, maybe I'll ask to get traded. And the LA faithful, even though they would have missed Kobe, was like, hey, go ahead. If you don't want to be here, we don't want you here either.
That's a good tie-in there because you have to remember Kobe went on one show and said, I want to leave. Then he goes on to Loose Cannons and cries and says, I don't want to leave. Now, mind you, this is in the span of 3 hours.
Yep.
So he went from wanting to leave to not wanting to leave to wanting to leave the next day. That's exactly what Dwight did. However, it took him a whole year to figure it out. So, these guys are way too pampered and way too pathetic. I want to use that word, pathetic. They're crybabies, and they do a lot more than I can do with talent. But still, you guys are soft. You guys cry too much, and you guys force people's hands, and when you don't get your way, you guys pout. It's pathetic. And, it's the way of sports nowadays. And like you said, it's like they said, just leave. And now he's here. Let's see how long it is before he alienates the LA crowd. Because I have a feeling he will sooner or later. He already had the admiration of everybody in Orlando, and he spit on them. Kind of like what LeBron did to Cleveland. So, let's see how long it takes before he turns around and spits on the people of LA, because it's not going to be taken quite as gently, let's just say, as they did in Orlando. He will get torched here. I promise you.
Going to come back on the Rumor Show. Shaq, always having interesting things to say, has some advice for Dwight Howard. What is that going to be? Chad Johnson arrested for domestic violence. What is going on? I heard he just got married. They're newlyweds. What is going on?
That's what happens when you find your wife on Twitter.
1-800-1-RUMOR. We're coming back on the Rumor Show. Welcome back to the Rumor Show. Give us a call at 1-800-1-RUMOR. I'm Julio Flores, and we've been talking about the Dwight Howard trade to the Lakers. Great for the Lakers, but not really that great for anyone else involved in the trade, in our personal humble opinion. Shaquille O'Neal, of course, always, I remember many people would be excited about just watching the post-game show or the halftime show because how come you want to watch? I'm not big on the halftime show or the post game show. I don't really care. But I have some friends that always just wanted to hear what weird thing Shaq was going to say. What goofy thing is Shaq going to say? Shaq went ahead and was interviewed. They asked him what he thought about Dwight going over to the Lakers. Of course, the same route that Shaq did take at one time as well. And he said basically when Jerry West had him come and he was going to talk to him, he took him into the forum and showed him all the banners and all the retired jerseys in the forum and said, these are great men. And I consider you a great man, one of the great big men. And you come to the Lakers, you'll end up retiring as one of these people here up on the wall. And he was also saying how people could love you in the first year, the second year, or the third year, might have some differences if you don't win. And that he needs to have some thick skin in regards to Dwight Howard, because if he thought the Orlando Sentinel was tough on him, wait till a person like LA Times columnist Bill Plaschke goes ahead and gets a hold of you. He'll go ahead and rip you a new one, basically, if you don't go ahead and aren't a great player that they went ahead and wanted to get.
Thank God Shaq has chimed in. Shaq chiming in on somebody having thick skin. The same Shaq that had such a problem with Kobe Bryant that he had to go on radio station after radio station and bash Kobe, basically is what it came down to. He had to bash Kobe because he felt hurt that he got traded. The same Shaq who got mad and went on a hiatus from doing post-game interviews when he was with the Magic.
Remember when he went ahead and did that rap song in that club, and it was ripping on Kobe.
Exactly, because he had tough skin then.
And it was years after that trade happened. He was still hurt by it.
Not only was it years after that trade, but it was after he had won his title away from Kobe. Shaq talking about anybody with thick skin is hilarious because the guy has never had thick skin in his life. The guy's got rabbit ears. I could sit here right now and tell you Shaq was the biggest underachiever at his size in any sports, and I guarantee it'd somehow get back to him and he'd hear it. How? I don't know. But he has rabbit ears. He hears everything. Any kind of criticism that anybody levies towards him, he hears, and he takes offense to it. Him giving Dwight Howard any type of advice other than for play hard and the fans will love you is pointless because this guy doesn't know what real media scrutiny is. When he was here, he was a media darling, right? Everybody loved listening to him. Ha, ha, ha. He gives great quotes. The moment someone talked bad about him, he shut them out completely. Why? Because he had such thick skin. Shaq should just stick to talking about how fun it was when he played and how he was the greatest of all time or whatever. Because we all know he still thinks he was the greatest of all time. He still thinks that he was better than Dwight Howard when they matched up 2 years ago. You know, the one where he was mad that Dwight Howard had a Superman tattoo like his. The same Shaq who got Dwight Howard's shoulder into his chest and then he flopped around like he was some kind of regular soccer player. You remember that incident? Just stick to talking about how fun it was when you were playing, Shaq, because you giving advice to anybody is really not going to matter because you give advice about something to which you do not know.
I'm looking forward to the time because, you know, if Dwight coming here, obviously Hollywood's here. Maybe Dwight can make one of those monster multi-million-dollar pictures like Shaq did. Or maybe he'll be able to record an incredible rap album just like Shaq did and become a rap superstar and have a career after basketball. I'm just looking forward to these things because Dwight will have access to things he never had access to in Orlando. And what was the name of that Shaq movie? I can't remember.
Kazam?
Oh, yes. And wait a sec.
What was it? Steel? There was Steel, where he was the black Superman or whatever the hell it was.
I don't even know why we even remember that.
And there was that awesome rap album with some people that got produced.
I think it's in like the dollar bin at CD stores, I would think. Or maybe, I think I saw it in front of the library. There was a place where it's like free stuff, free books and free CDs.
Please take this off our hands. It's taking up space. Yeah. I, like you, look forward to Shaq and his fledgling movie career or rap career or whatever the hell he's chosen to do after. Maybe pick up another wife. I don't know. Whatever he does. Just don't be giving advice to somebody about how to live life. Because as we all seen, the moment you left L.A., crash and burn, son. Crash and burn.
I'm thinking, too, that Dwight will have a lot more time in his hands, too, being one of the fourth player on the Lakers. Like, I'm kind of bored right now. Oh, I'm starting. Okay.
Oh, wait, I gotta do what?
I'm starting, but I never get the ball. I'm over here. Throw it to me. Another guy that's been having some trouble this weekend, Chad Johnson, Dolphins receiver. Released from jail.
Wait, who?
Chad Johnson.
Who's Chad Johnson?
Chad Johnson.
Who's Chad Johnson?
He had he had a great movie career too.
He was in you mean Ocho Cinco?
Ocho Cinco.
I
love Ocho Cinco.
What's the matter? He finally grew up and went back to his real name? Or?
He went back to his real name now because he got married, and I don't know. When they get married, they're like, Ocho Cinco, would you take this bride to be your wedded wife?
Did she not want to be known as Mrs. Ocho Cinco?
I think so. So he's married to Evelyn Lozada, who is on the reality TV show Basketball Wives. Now they're newlyweds. But he was released from jail Sunday on $2,500 bond. And you're thinking, wow, did something happen? Well, it apparently was a domestic violence issue. His wife accused him of headbutting her during an argument in front of their Florida home. And this is what she told the police. She said she found a receipt in the trunk. And they were taking groceries into the house. And they got back in the car. And she wanted to talk about the receipt and their marriage. And that's when Ocho Cinco, Chad Johnson, got upset and headbutted his wife. The responding police officer says that he found a 3-inch cut on Lozado's forehead. So, a receipt? I don't understand. Well, apparently the receipt was for a box of condoms. What was he going to do those with?
Don't you mean who he was going to do those with? A box of condoms. Now,
that's what she was concerned about. And I understand, rightly so. They're newlyweds.
Maybe.
I don't care if they've been married 10, 20 years. She'd be concerned about finding a receipt in the trunk. And if he's going to go ahead, and this is how Chad Johnson thinks in his mind, where he's thinking, wow, whatever he's used to in his lifestyle, now that he's married, his lifestyle hasn't changed. Apparently.
Maybe he was, if he was really smart, he would just explain to her that she is a psycho and he doesn't want to have kids with her. That's plain and simple. Look, I have been on this show many times and bashed Kim Kardashian for being nothing, if anything. She's only famous for laying on her back and making an amateur porno with Brandy's little brother. Now, mind you, Chad Johnson is an average, and I'll say that to him, to anybody who asks me. He was an average player at best, and now that his time has passed, he is not even an average player. He's below average. He couldn't make it in the Patriot system. Everybody makes it in the Patriot system except for Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco, whatever the hell he wants to be called. He didn't make it in that system. So he no longer has any clout. He's no longer a star athlete. And he marries a chick straight off of Basketball Wives, and they met on Twitter. Now, you take a below average athlete and you take a piece of crap reality star, and what do you get? You get something like this. A headbutt. A headbutt. Because you couldn't slap your wife, you had to headbutt her. I mean, if you're going to go out, at least go out like a man. What is headbutting her doing? You couldn't reach back and slap her? Not that I'm actually condoning you slapping her, but a headbutt is 10 times worse. You punk. You couldn't slap her? And for her, what? So he had condoms, big deal. If he wanted to cheat on you, he's going to cheat on you regardless. You should have expected this when you married the guy you met on Twitter. It's not like you guys had an extensive dating life. Do you understand me? You dated a guy who has as much of a need for publicity as you do. And you guys are both pathetic. You guys are both absolute drains on the human race, and nobody cares. I mean, other than for the cops showing up, if you guys got into a fist fight and stabbed each other, you think anybody would be weeping outside of your family? And I'm thinking right now your family probably wouldn't care. And you would be doing the human race a big favor by stabbing each other. Just go away. Nobody cares. And if you guys want to squabble, then squabble. But don't call the cops, because you guys are both idiots. And nothing brings a smile to my face more than knowing two idiots are getting press, and they're going to play this out for a good 10 months to a year, talking about how much everybody loves to follow them. Nobody loves following you. We just love the fact that we see your life and your husband's life, and you make millions of dollars, and you guys have worse problems than us broke people because of how pathetic you are. Bravo to you too. You guys make me laugh because no matter how bad I think my life is, you people with money make me feel so much better with my life, and it's hard to do because I'm broke.
There's one thing you failed to know, Rudy, and I know maybe it's just because you don't get out a lot, but everybody meets their wife now or husband on Twitter. That's just the way it is. No one speaks to each other anymore. We just meet each other on Facebook, Twitter. We meet and we're around each other for a week and we say, you know what? You want to get married? Sure. And then when you get into a fight, you headbutt your wife. That's just what happens nowadays. I know you haven't grown up and you haven't seen how people live their life, but everyone's doing it, Rudy.
I haven't been on Facebook in a while. That's why I didn't use timeline so much yet. You know what? And here's the problem I have. You are so lazy you can't go out and meet somebody at a coffee shop. You can't talk to somebody that you find attractive. Exactly.
That's not going to work. Twitter, the only way.
Facebook. What else is there? Whatever dating sites there are. And then
people don't even need to have dating sites anymore. You just go on Facebook and Twitter.
You don't understand why your life is this bad? You guys make me smile. Thank you for the good times.
And here's what Chad Ochocinco Johnson should have said. You know what? And this has happened to me because I've gone ahead and I've gone to the market, let's say to buy milk and bread, eggs and cookies. I don't know. And then all of a sudden, the cashier goes ahead and puts a receipt from the previous people's stuff in my bag. And I get home and I'm like, what is all this stuff I bought that I didn't buy? Hey, New York steak. I wish I would have gotten that today. And so Chad could have said, oh, honey, you know what? This was accidentally put in my bag. Look in the trunk. No condoms. Look around the house. No condoms. And there would have been no reason for headbutting your wife.
I mean, that would have been awesome. I mean, could you imagine that one? Yeah, I got my eggs, my milk, condoms. All right. I'll go with that. And then your wife sees it. And then how do you explain that? Hey, like you, he should have just had her look for the condoms. Go, look, if you can find them, you can do whatever to me. Beat me up. I don't care. If you didn't buy the condoms, have her find them.
Yeah, this was not on my Ralph's Club card, buddy. I don't know. This was not me. You see the code on the back end of this? It wasn't me. And let's just say if you're actually a person who's going to go ahead and do something like this, even though you just got married, wouldn't you get rid of the receipt? Would you be smart enough to get rid of the receipt and cover your butt?
You do realize we're talking about Chad Ocho Johnson Cinco, whatever the hell his name is? You do realize that, right? This is Keyshawn Johnson's cousin, Mishon, that wasn't too smart. He kept destroying Wayne Corbett when he was on the Jets. That same Keyshawn Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we're talking about the same Chad Ocho Cinco Johnson that when he came into the league, put up the schedule to his team's games and then said, who can check me? And was marking off several different cornerbacks. And then he got to the cornerback. I think it was Charles Woodson that put him in check. And he wouldn't admit to it? That same Chad Johnson?
Of course, we jest through this whole segment because
no, I don't.
It just sounds so ridiculous.
I don't. He's an idiot, and I mean that in every sense. And every sense that you get from me, I mean it. He's an idiot. So his wife is a bigger idiot. I will say that to them. I will say that to their friends. I will say that to their family. If they have an issue with it, tough.
Even Chad's mama, you would say that to?
Yes, because I'm not calling her an idiot. I'm calling her son an idiot.
You know what's going to happen to you after you say that stuff to Chad Johnson's mama?
She's going to headbutt me?
She's going to headbutt you, man.
That's all right. I won't get that close.
It's the Rumor Show. Give us a call at 1-800-1-RUMOR. Coming up, I got stories. The Panthers have decided to give an extension to one of their big running backs. I almost said running mate there because this weekend we found out about Romney picking a running mate. This weekend, CC Sabathia is on the DL. He says, I will not be here long. And also, UCLA. We got a story about them. They've decided to pick a starting quarterback. A redshirt freshman? That's coming up all on The Rumor Show. Welcome back to the Rumor Show. I'm Julio Flores. We'll take your calls at 1-800-1-RUMOR. Rumor spelled R-U-M-O-R, 1-800-1-RUMOR. Wanted to mention, of course, college football starting up real soon. Always excited about the season. And UCLA, Jim Mora is there now. And Brent Huntley will be the Bruins starting quarterback. He is a redshirt freshman, though. One of the highly touted quarterbacks coming out of high school there from Arizona. Of course, we know Mora replaced Neuheisel after the Bruins went 6-7 last season. And the problem with the Bruins is that, you still got to compete against USC. And it doesn't matter if they're on sanctions, restrictions, what. The Trojans always seem to get great players. And it's because of namesake. I mean, everybody wants to go and get that scholarship too, but they want to be on a team that is going to be a high caliber team, because if many of these players want to get to the NFL, it's got to be on a team like USC. So if they pick UCLA for the scholarship, it's just because they want to go ahead and go to school and they don't have any interest in really going to the NFL, is my personal opinion. UCLA is a great school. It's actually in a neighborhood, which is ironic. USC is a private school here in Los Angeles, but it's
the hood.
It's in a bad neighborhood. And has bad things happen at USC or around that neighborhood? Yes. At UCLA is actually in Westwood. Very safe neighborhood. It's a public school, though.
It's a very Caucasian neighborhood.
Yes. So it's just kind of ironic that it costs, I'd say, about maybe $12,000 to $13,000 to go to UCLA a year, tuition. At UCLA, I've heard different figures. I've heard about average of about $35,000 or more, depending upon what your major is, to go to USC, the private school in the hood.
Okay, here's the problem. I agree with you. If you want to make it to the NFL, you go to USC. UCLA has namesake. They have program tradition. They have a fantastic track record of sending very good, if not great players to the NFL. Problem is, they got a jackass / moron for an athletic director. Dan Guerrero, in his tenure, has absolutely killed all of the UCLA programs. If it's not for basketball and not for football, there would be no athletic department at UCLA. Dan Guerrero has ruined it all. Dan Guerrero, the same Dan Guerrero who came in and said he was going to change things around. Mediocrity was not going to be tolerated. However,
can you say that quote again?
Mediocrity will not be tolerated.
Oh, it was more intense. It was more intense the first time.
Okay. If you want Dan Guerrero's version, here, I'll give it to you. Mediocrity will not be tolerated.
Oh, all right.
All right. Sound better?
You sounded very ballsy the first time, buddy.
Very stern. To be honest with you, I probably have more backbone than Dan Guerrero has. So that's how it goes. Dan Guerrero.
Mediocrity will not be tolerated.
Exactly. He came in. He demanded excellence, right? Has he gotten excellence? Did he get excellence from Carl Durrell? Did he get excellence from Rick Neuheisel?
No.
Right. Ben Howland. Has Ben Howland been proving to be the championship caliber coach when he brought him in?
No.
Thank you.
No.
No.
Can you go through the list again? Go through the list again.
Okay. Carl Durrell.
No.
Neuheisel.
No.
Ben Howland.
No.
Right. So.
Any more?
Well, you have Mora coming up. We don't know about Mora just yet.
No.
However, this is what he deems as not mediocre. A team that has not gone to a meaningful bowl game in almost the better part of a decade. A basketball team who is still living off their three Final Four visits in the first 4 years of Ben Howland's tenure there. He is now going on 8 years. That's 4 years he has not been to the Final Four. He's been out of the Sweet 16, well, actually, out of March Madness 3 of the last 4 years. So
That's embarrassing for a UCLA program, which may not get anything right sports-wise,
But always had basketball.
Always had basketball.
right. So
You messed that up? Because the reality, again, that's how USC gets their players, because of the history, the legendary status of that program. And in my mind, UCLA's basketball program is legendary.
right.
And you can't get players to come to your school to get a scholarship to play on your team.
No,
Actually,
nobody wants
they-
to come.
They get players. It's just bad coaching and a bad athletic director. As an AD, it is your job to make sure the players get whatever they need to play for your school. Am I correct?
I think you're correct.
Okay. So why is their practice football field such a mess? Why is their weight room so horrible that these recruits come in and they look at it and they laugh? It's substandard, even by way of, say, community college. Their facilities are substandard. Their practice facilities are substandard, and all the while, this is a school that is raking in money hand over fist, and they can't invest in their athletic program.
Oh, no, you're wrong, Rudy. There's a budget crisis.
Budget crisis.
The state hasn't given us any money.
Maybe they ought to turn
The
around
state
and
has not given us any money. I'm sorry to fix the grass on the football field.
maybe they need to turn around and look at their board members and have them take a pay cut. Maybe they need to do that. Maybe they ought to cut Dan Guerrero's pay in half. You know he's got to be making about
no, I have children to feed.
150. You think 150
No,
grand?
I don't make that much.
Maybe they should cut his salary and
No,
all
I need all the
the
money I have.
all the trustees and all the board members. Screw them all. They ruined a great program in UCLA, and I have no pity for them.
Hey, just because the
And by the way, Brett Hundley is a very good quarterback, ranked number 1 out of the year. He came out. However, he never got used because Neuheisel didn't know how to use him. So Neuheisel's an idiot. Dan Guerrero's an idiot. Anybody else? Norm Chow was an idiot because he couldn't use him. So now you wonder why the UCLA football program is in such disarray?
just because the weights are rusty doesn't mean you can't still use them. Just because there's nothing to hold them on, there's no pins to hold the things on. Sure, someone might get crushed, but until it happens, we're fine with the equipment here. And you know what? The budget is bad, and we haven't had anyone have a chance to mow the lawn on the football field. And the chalk, we're running low on chalk. You know, when
We're
we
using
go
spray paint.
when we go ahead and they have Teacher Appreciation Week at Staples or Office Depot, they get a little discount. There's no chalk that they can buy at the Office Depot in order to put the chalk on the football field. So our hands are tied.
Really? Because Cal is a public school, and I don't see any problem with that school.
Oh, well, they get their chalk for free.
Oh, it must be.
There's
must be all those
former
all those
alumni
hippies up there
that works
All
at the chalk
those-
factory.
All those hippies up there take care of them, right? Yeah. Okay.
My goodness. I want to go back to that Chad Ochocinco story. That was more entertaining than this story.
Trust me, I got more venom for Chad Ochocinco if you want to bring that.
Will Middlebrooks of the Red Sox says, looks like they did the MRI and everything like that. You know, he got hit by that ball, a fastball, and he was just like, man, this is excruciating pain. Not broken or sprained or anything. It just, I guess, inflamed is what they call it. I mean, you could go ahead. I mean, there's just not bones and you know, tendons in there. There's a lot of other stuff in your wrist too. Get all inflamed and you're like, man, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm hurting.
There goes his love life.
Yep. The other big story today, not necessarily a big story. We're just going to go through these little baseball notes, rather.
I thought you wanted to talk about Plaxico Burress.
Oh, we're going to get there. Mark Kotze signed to a 1-year contract extension for the Padres. Not much going on in Padre land. Not much stories coming out of there. CC Sabathia, as you know, is on the disabled list. He couldn't bend his elbow enough to put his hand on the shoulder. He says a little nervous, never had any arm injury before. Had the MRI, no structural damage, just inflammation. Again, an inflammation. This is a widespread epidemic going around in sports. Inflammation.
I don't know
CC
anything about inflammation.
CC
We never
Sabathia.
have that here at UCLA.
Let me ask you a question. Couldn't CC Sabathia pay somebody to do his calisthenics for him?
I'm sure
I'm sure
he could.
that's when he hurt himself, right?
Right.
Okay. You make $25 million. Pay someone to do it for you.
So he couldn't bend. Let's do this. Get your right hand out. He couldn't bend his elbow enough to put his hand on his shoulder. Now, why would
Wait,
you?
which
why would
shoulder?
well, I guess the left or right. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Either one. So that would be kind of difficult. Now, what would you normally be doing when you're doing that? Yeah, I think he was using his right hand and putting it on his left shoulder. Couldn't do that.
So when he was saluting the flag, he injured himself, right? Is that right? Is that what it was?
That's what I think happened.
He stood up
I
to
don't wanna
salute
say
the
it.
flag, and he hurt himself. That is impressive.
He says he doesn't think he's going to be on the disabled list too long, or he doesn't want to have to be on the disabled list too long. So look for CC coming back sooner than the doctors say, is what he's basically saying.
Okay. Well, no more saluting the flag, and no more no more of the American anthem for him, because he's going to injure himself if
No.
he does it. That's
He's
apparent.
going to have to use his left hand. I don't know. Well, rumor out of training camp for the Patriots, Plaxico Burress has been flown in for a workout. Now, this would be cool for the Patriots. Wes Welker, Deion Branch, and Plaxico all on the same team. My goodness.
Does that really address their biggest need of defense? I mean,
No.
okay.
But who watches defense? That doesn't sell tickets.
Yeah. You sell tickets when you win championships, right? Offense does not win championships.
Hey, it's always high-scoring games. You know, the Patriots won 67-66 today. Woohoo!
Let's go back to the lineage of the Patriots the past couple years. Randy Moss comes in. They go undefeated all the way to a championship game, lose to the Giants in a defensive battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
They bring in Chad Ochocinco. They go, however, I think it was 11-2 with Matt Castle, and then they don't even make the playoffs. Last year, they make the playoffs. They make it all the way to the Super Bowl and realize that without defense, and you can't stop the other team, you don't win championships. So, is it finally being proven that maybe Belichick is not the genius that everybody thought he was? Everybody thought this guy was good at scheming and making in-game adjustments. Come to find out, he was taping people's practices. And has it been such an easy going ever since he got caught for that?
It's always been my feeling that if you really want to know what another team is doing, tape their practices.
Yeah, well,
It's the best thing to do.
that's always good. However, they kind of frown upon that whole cheating aspect of the game. But is he now? Has he finally been exposed as being a fraud? Because I think he's a fraud. The moment it comes out that you had to cheat, and not only did you cheat, but you lost the Super Bowl that year when everybody's eyes were on you and making sure you weren't cheating, sounds kind of weird to me, and sounds very much like a conspiracy. But maybe he's not such a genius. Maybe the final nail was when he got caught and he can no longer cheat. Now he can't win the big game. Kind of strange to me. What do you think?
Well, it was interesting. It was happened during that season when they went 19-1 in essence. And if this would have happened in college football, they would have took all those wins away from them. Basically,
They would have taken both his Super Bowl appearances.
Let me also tell you that Jonathan Stewart has been re-signed, a 5-year contract extension for that running back for the Panthers. Terms were actually not disclosed, but we're hearing that they were probably about $22.5 million in guaranteed money and worth about $36.5 million overall. And the interesting thing about this is that, I mean, he is a great running back, and he has put up some great numbers with the Panthers. In fact, last season, 761 yards, 4 touchdowns last season. Also caught 47 passes for 413 yards receiving with 3 scores as well. And he's run for 26 touchdowns in his 4 seasons. Now, Cam Newton, of course, saying this is huge for them, being able to lock him up. And one thing I like about teams that do this is because you want to have consistency. When things are going well, lock up your players. Go ahead and kind of take them, because the reality, again, Carolina is a situation where it's a smaller market and other teams are going to want to pick up a good player like that, just as we were talking about the situation with Dwight in Orlando. That's, no matter what you say about it, it is a smaller market, and those teams that have a lot more money and a lot more prestige will be able to take those good players from those smaller teams. So kudos to the Panthers for taking care of this, and a 5-year extension. It's going to keep them there a while.
So that's 5 years at how much?
5 years at, guaranteed 22.5. Which doesn't seem like that much. 36.5 million overall. So they actually got a good deal when you think about it.
So that's, if you average it out by year, it's $6 million plus.
Yeah,
$6 million plus for a guy who didn't even make 1,000 yards rushing last year. Am I correct?
Yep.
$6 million to a guy who's not even the focal point of your offense. That is supposed to be Cam Newton. Am I correct?
Well, Cam's got to go ahead and give the ball to somebody.
Okay, but are you going to give Cam Newton the $6 million, or are you going to give Jonathan Stewart the $6 million?
Well, when Cam Newton's contract comes up, we'll give him the money that he deserves.
Then they're going to have to cut Jonathan Stewart anyway.
That's right, but we're not going to worry about that now, because he only has a certain amount of money guaranteed. That's what teams pull off all the time, just to make everyone happy.
And then they're going to turn around and look at the fans and go, I don't know, we have to lock them out. They make too much money. I don't understand. This is why these athletes make so much money, because they find stupid owners to give it to them. Now, I'm always up for the athlete getting as much money as they can, because if someone offered me $6 million a year, I sure as hell am not going to turn it down. However, I cannot stand when I hear, our market is small, we can't afford this, we can't afford that. Learn how to spend your money wisely in a cap year, you jackasses. That way you don't have to come crying to the consumer, the normal fan like myself or Julio, and say, I have to raise the prices on tickets. I know they're expensive now, and it costs $50 for nosebleeds. Charge $100 for nosebleeds for a team that goes 5-11. All right? I don't want to see any ticket prices being raised on a team that goes 5-11. There should be no reason. This is why the reason is because you're giving Jonathan Stewart $6 million a year for 5 years. Learn how to spend your money.
What should happen is any owner who's upset with any player who isn't earning their keep should have the ability to headbutt them and just get it over with. And not worry about other things.
Go with the old Chad Ochocinco Johnson way.
I know we've been promising taking calls. We're going to do that next segment here on The Rumor Show. 1-800-1-RUMOR. Got stories coming up. What were some of the cool moments of the Olympics? And we're not even talking about people who actually won in their event. Some big moments. We'll talk about that coming up. The Yankees have signed another pitcher. David Garrard has some surgery on his knee. We'll talk about that coming up. And we know that Durant set a record in the Olympics as well. We'll talk about that all coming up on The Rumor Show.
I've been everywhere, man, looking for you, babe. Looking for you, babe. Searching for you, babe. Where have you been?
Welcome back to The Rumor Show. I'm Julio Flores, taking your calls at 1-800-1-RUMOR. I know we've been promising taking calls, and you guys have been waiting for a while, but thanks for holding. Frankie's calling from the Bronx. Frankie, CC's on the DL. What do you think's going to happen, my brother?
Yeah, how you guys doing?
Good.
How about yourself?
All right, yeah, I'm doing okay here. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that CC's on the DL there, but the thing about it, though, look at his record there. Geez, 12 wins, 3 losses, not too bad of an ERA. It could be lower, but the thing is, I'm so sorry to hear about that because he's the main force of the Yanks there. He's a big, strong guy, 6'8", 200 and, maybe, 300-something pounds, but the guy, he's a big guy. And the thing is, he can come back from it. He just put his arm in a whirlpool and what have you. Do some exercises here and there. He's a southpaw, so therefore he's strong. So therefore he can come back.
Yes,
I'm so sorry to hear that he's on the DL.
Yeah, CC, his ERA is now 3.56. He's got 140 strikeouts so far. So, CC's basically saying he's going to be coming back soon. He thinks he's going to be up quicker. Basically, the issue is that he's having trouble bending his arm. He said he basically woke up. I don't know if he was sleeping funny or something, or, he says he can't bend his elbow and he can't basically touch his shoulder. We were kind of goofing on him early because we were saying maybe he got hurt when he was doing the flag salute or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's a thing here. Come on. Hey, that happened to me a couple of years ago. One day, I slept wrong, and that does happen. I couldn't even hug my wife in the morning, my kids. I said, Jesus, hurts. And I said, oh, my goodness gracious. I said, my wife looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? What's the matter? So I said, I think I slept wrong. And she says, well, you were looking a little weird in bed. I said, okay. So I got up and I really couldn't move. And so therefore, hey, these things do happen. I just put some Ambisol on there and just rubbed it and kept flexing it. And I was good to go in about 2 or 3 days.
We got some other news out of New York, by the way. Frankie, former Cleveland Indians pitcher Derek Lowe has been signed by the Yankees for doing some relief. And, the thing we got to say about your team, Frankie, is that no matter what the Yankees can do or get, they will get whatever they want because they have the money. And to be able to compete with the Red Sox on the caliber that they do, they have no problem paying luxury tax, the Yankees.
Well, yeah. The thing is, what the heck? We got tradition. We took guys, they were bums. But as soon as they put on the pinstripes, guess what? They blossomed. Now, I don't know too much about this guy here from the Indians here. But the thing is, I think he started at one time, and if they would have put him in a relief role, guess what? Who knows? We got Mariano out, which I dearly am sad about. But who knows? If he blossoms and puts those pinstripes on, feels the tradition, hey, what the hell? He could be the next closer.
Sounds good. Thanks.
The fact that he used to be a starter, and like I said, it's just Yankee magic. You put the pinstripes on, and all of a sudden, you're transformed.
It's like magic. Thank you, Frankie, for the call. Certainly appreciate that. And, the funny thing about the Yankees, obviously, is that so many other teams, if you're a fan of another team, you hate the Yankees just because of all the things that they can do and the money they have. It's really hard to compete with the Yankees. Let me go ahead and also tell you that Dolphins' David Garrard has surgery on his knee. He'll have that knee surgery injury, and he says he doesn't really even remember how that happened. I don't know.
Wait, what happened? I fell asleep. I thought you guys were talking about baseball.
Yeah, we're moving on.
Oh, okay.
Just like that.
Wait. Who are we talking about now? David Garrard?
David Garrard.
The same David Garrard who turned down the Raiders?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you know what? If he can right the ship in his career, he's still kind of young and he's still a pretty good quarterback. Hey, maybe he can do some good out there in Miami. I don't know if you're going to be able to beat out Tannehill since they took him in the first round early, but if you can, and I'm sure he's got more skill than Tannehill, then so be it. Maybe he makes good out there. I'll wait and see, but I think he might do well.
Yeah, he had the surgery on Saturday morning. The recovery time is going to be about 2 to 4 weeks or so. The competition between Matt Moore and Ryan Tannehill, as you mentioned, for the starting position for the time being, has definitely intensified, and we'll see how that turns out. Milestones in the Olympics. Kevin Durant went ahead and he scored 156 total points in the 2012 Olympics, the most in any of the single Olympic games. And so that's pretty cool. Kevin Durant, whenever I've seen interviews with Kevin, he always kind of takes the high road on things. He doesn't cause trouble. I really like it. It's funny, too. They asked him what he felt about the situation there in Lakerland with them getting Dwight Howard. He basically said he had no comment. And I know, he probably had a comment, but when you're in the same Western Conference and having to deal with the Lakers, and obviously they ran over them pretty quickly there, it's going to be different next time around. So, but I just like Kevin.
It may be different. You have to remember, everybody is getting all high and really happy about the Lakers, but they still have to stop Durant. Who is going to stop Durant? Kobe? Kobe's going to be too busy trying to get his to stop Durant. And when you stop Durant, who's going to stop Russell Westbrook? So, I mean, is there something he should fear? I guess. I mean, I would still think that his team is not half bad, and they will give the Lakers a run for their money. And if it came down to it, and we're here in LA, I'll tell you this right now: I like Oklahoma more than I like the Lakers.
Yeah, Oklahoma. They got so many great young players, and they're going to be around together. They seem to like their chemistry. You can't say anything bad about them because they just ended up really firing on all cylinders, as the cliche goes, and that kind of stuff. I want to go ahead and mention some of the cool things from the Olympics. Now, I'm not a big Olympic kind of guy. I didn't get to watch much of it. But, of course, you have people that come to visit, and they're like, hey, put the Olympics on. Let's check out what's going on. Of course, it's disturbing to me when you have to watch things after you already know what happened. Because you access the internet, all of a sudden you find out things are happening, and you don't get to watch any of the events because NBC wants to keep it for all the primetime events. And I understand it has to do with money, but, there's so many NBC channels. They could run some of that stuff live, and they did, but not enough to really satisfy me. Not to make me feel like I'm watching a live event. I use my DVR a lot, but when someone else is forcing me to DVR, as NBC is technically doing, I'm not that happy with it. But let me mention some things I think that were pretty cool for the Olympics. Michael Phelps, a career total of 22 medals, 18 of them gold. And in his final swim, he helped the U.S. reclaim the lead in the 4 times 100-meter relay. Got a special trophy from swimming officials that said, Michael Phelps, the greatest Olympic athlete of all time.
Okay.
Now,
I'll take their word for it.
Michael Phelps may not be the greatest speaker. I remember when he went ahead and I believe they had him hosting Saturday Night Live. And I was like, my goodness, it was awful. He has no personality. Sad to say.
Was he high?
I have no idea. I didn't ask him.
Are you sure? Because you can really tell if he wasn't training and his eyes were red. There's a pretty big giveaway right there. And I know he's given up the Olympics just so he can smoke weed, allegedly.
That is true.
Allegedly.
Good point.
He won't come out and say it, but come on now. We all know. And if that's what he wants, then, big ups to him. He's earned it.
Another big thing I thought was great of the Olympics, Usain Bolt. First man to win the 100, 200, and the 4 times 100 relay golds in back-to-back Olympics. The IOC president initially balked at giving him living legend status, but has said the 6-time gold medalist is the best sprinter of all time.
He's having some kind of verbal conflict with Carl Lewis right now. Carl Lewis decided that since he's no longer in the spotlight for running and bad singing, he'd take it out on the guy who is currently the fastest man on the earth, which is Usain Bolt, saying that Jamaica has, let's just say, a relaxed stance on performance-enhancing drugs, to which Usain Bolt said, I have no respect for him anyway. What does it matter? So basically, Carl Lewis, You have just been told by Usain Bolt that you really don't matter. He doesn't care what you say. So go back into obscurity. Now that you're done, and let's not forget, it was your generation that was very, very, very big on performance-enhancing drugs. That's why all the track and field members, they all had braces because they were using growth hormones and stuff like that. So I would be careful what you say before it comes out that you are doing the same and looking like a hypocrite.
The other thing I thought that was really cool about this Olympics, and I wasn't that familiar with this guy, but I had a lot of family visiting from D.C., and then we had other family came up from Orange County last weekend, and we ended up watching one of the track and field events with Oscar Pistorius of South
the Blade
Africa.
Runner.
And it is just amazing, those carbon fiber blades. And in the event that we were watching last Saturday night, it was basically all the best runners that qualified for all the previous events. He didn't do very well. But you know what? They cheered him. And the only person they interviewed from the race was him. NBC did. So that's a great story. Now, some people may say he had an unfair advantage. But in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if I had to be amputated, I would even be having trouble balancing myself, let alone running. This is a great human interest story, we'll call it.
Okay, I'll give you that. However, those same people say he had a disadvantage. If he had a disadvantage, why didn't he medal? These idiots want to go in here and talk about he's got an unfair advantage. The guy has no legs. Do you not realize this? He has no legs. He hasn't had legs in a while. He doesn't have any unfair advantage, or else he would have easily won the gold medal. These people just want to make noise, and they're making it sound like this is some kind of competitive advantage. Like, if he wins a goal, do you think other runners are going to go out and cut off their legs just so they can use it? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. The guy was a great human interest story, like Julio said, but does he have an advantage? No. And not only did he prove it by not winning a medal, but you idiots need to realize that not everybody is going to run out and chop off their legs just so they can run with those carbon fiber things that he puts at the bottom of his legs. Nobody is going to run out and do this anytime soon. So for you guys to call it an advantage and that people are going to exploit it later on in life, you guys are idiots. Shut your mouth and go back to watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians or whatever the hell you guys watch.
The other thing I thought was interesting about this Olympics, and I was thinking to myself, sometimes you see something and you're thinking to yourself, have I seen this before? Women's boxing in the Olympics? No, it was the first time. Brand new. 3 memorable champions we're talking about. Clarissa Shields, she's 17. Katie Taylor of Ireland, and Nicola Adams, a British flyweight, who won her first gold medal. Now, I'm thinking Chad Ochocinco's wife doesn't need to put up with these headbutts, because now we've got women's boxing. She needs to learn some stuff from these women, and she'll never be headbutted again.
Okay, Julio, you do realize that takes physical talent, right?
Are you telling me the women on Basketball Wives do not have physical talent?
Other than for the fact that they got soft lips and can lay on their back? No, they don't have any talent whatsoever.
It's difficult to open that door at Tiffany's to get in that store. That door is heavy.
It's rough spending millions upon millions of dollars. Yeah, I get it. A bunch of waste of flesh. That's all I see it as.
I'm going to have trouble saying this lady's name. But one thing I thought was historic for this Olympics, and it may have only lasted 82 seconds, young judo fighter, and her name is like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 names. It's like being Hispanic in Saudi Arabia, I guess. I don't know what's going on. The first Saudi woman to compete at the Olympics, which is interesting. My cousin is actually, her husband is a firefighter, but he flies planes and stuff like that. They end up getting a 10-year contract to move to Saudi Arabia. So she obviously went, my cousin. They're married and that kind of stuff. So she's there. And on Facebook, she was really talking about this a lot. the first Saudi woman to be in the Olympics. It's a big deal because obviously in that country, if you may not know, is that women are looked down upon in those Arab countries. They don't have the same rights that we would have here in the United States. In some those countries, they have to wear a headdress and that kind of stuff. They can't show any part of their body. So for this to happen is amazing. And obviously she didn't do well, but when we think of people like this and Pistorius, these are great stories that people can go ahead and have bad things happen to them, and they can still come out and live their dream, so to speak. Go ahead and be able to compete in the Olympics. If a person wants to do a certain field or career, keep working hard and trying to do that, and you can accomplish it.
Sure. I mean, sure. You said it best, and I really have nothing to add to that because, to be honest with you, I really don't know the story behind it. However, if she was a female athlete, and I'm saying was because I didn't see, I can hear a lot of things people think are women, but if she was a woman and she competed for Saudis, then, props to her. How did she get past all the security and all that? I mean, how'd they explain that, considering as how, male, masculine, and how do you say it? Male chauvinists out there that they are. Women look down upon. I don't know the whole backstory of how they went ahead and decided this was cool, because there's obviously a whole thing that misogynistic. That's the word I was looking for.
Have to go through in order to be able to compete, and who knows what happened. I'll have to do some investigation regarding that matter. But you're the producer, so you'll be doing the research.
Yeah,
thank you.
I'll look it up. I'll find out. You just have to tell me her name.
And
you
have
to do it. You have to tell me her name on air so I can look it up.
I'm going to try to do it. Let me see what I can do here. It's going to be terrible. Wadan Ali Sarah Abdul Rahim Shahari Hami. I think.
Gesundheit?
Yeah. But anyway, I'm sure somebody said it correctly. And one thing about the opening ceremony that was kind of cool. Short film on the stadium's big screen showing actor Daniel Craig as James Bond driving to Buckingham Palace and meeting Queen Elizabeth II, who actually played herself. She has a line in the movie, "Good evening, Mr. Bond." And then next you see her flying in a helicopter over the Olympic Stadium, where stunt doubles actually parachuted into the stadium, which I think is kind of cool.
Okay, yet again. Okay, I don't know the story. I didn't watch the opening. I didn't watch the opening ceremonies. I was in Vegas, so I was doing much more fun things than watching the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. However, I will give you my best part of the Olympics.
Go ahead.
That has yet to happen. Will be the closing ceremonies. That way, I don't have to hear about the Olympics anymore.
It'll be over for 4 years.
4 years.
Well, technically 2 years, because we'll do the
the
Winter Olympics.
But I'm not interested in that either. And the second favorite moment of the Olympics, the very, very, very awesome song that Muse made for that Olympics. It was so horrible. I can't even tell you. If you people can hear it, look it up if you can find it. But if you're a big fan of Muse and you hear this song, you're not going to be happy. I will tell you that right now. It was absolutely horrible. It sounds like a mixture of screaming and you remember the Oompa Loompa song in
Oompa Loompa.
Willy Wonka's?
Yes.
Sounds like a mixture of those two.
Wow.
It is absolutely horrible, and I expect better from such a great band in the world.
All right, we're going to take your calls here on The Rumor Show. Coming up next, 1-800-WHAT-RUMOR. I'm Julio Flores, and it's The Rumor Show.
Let's go. Make no excuses now. I'm talking here.